Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. General Hospital Friday, October 11 recap. Dante decides Sonny's fate. Portia busted and Carly sticks to statement. General Hospital, GH, spoilers recap for Friday, October 11 reveals that Martin Gray, Michael E. Knight, visited Alexis Davis, Nancy Lee Grahn, with updates since Jack Brennan, Charles Mazur, ordered champagne and dinner for two the night Carly Spencer, Laura Wright, showed up. Alexis still thought Sonny Corinthos, Morris Bernard, confession was the only way out of this mess. And if Sonny did come clean, she worried about Christina Corinthos Davis, Kate Mancy, drama it could lead to. In Robert Scorpio's Tristan Rogers' office, Anna Devane, Finola Hughes, delivered the paperwork following the ballistics report and all the gun testing. There was residue consistent with spending a few weeks in Blackstone Canyon, and the gun was the missing one registered to Sonny. Anna made a prediction that they'd never find the actual gun that killed John Jagger Cates, Adam J. Harrington, if Sonny was responsible like they assumed. That said, this evidence was enough to clear Alexis. Since Sonny had a meeting involving the federal prosecutor soon, Robert wanted to hold off on telling anyone about the proof that could clear her. In other words, Robert hoped to get Sonny to come clean before he knew Alexis would walk free. Dex Heller, Avenhofer, told Dante Falconeri, Dominic Zampravna, about the gun showing up before he learned Anna wanted it kept quiet. After Dex pushed Dante to keep that under wraps, Dante said he'd already forgotten about it. Once Christina spoke to Sonny and learned he was going to confess, she flipped out and told Dante at GH. Dante was suddenly in a bind based on the evidence he knew about, so he confided in Cody Bell, Josh Kelly. Although Dante spoke in vague terms, Cody figured out that Sonny was about to confess to a crime he was likely guilty of when he didn't have to. Once Cody acknowledged Kate's behavior leading up to his demise, he suggested Dante would have to decide what was more important, his badge or his family. Next, Alexis got a visit from Sonny, who confirmed he was going to turn himself in and pushed her to take care of Christina. Sonny explained that he was going to confess to whatever the FBI wanted as long as Alexis, Christina, and Carly would stay out of trouble. At the PCPD, Anna gave Carly a chance to change her alibi statement, considering what Sonny was about to do, but Carly refused. Once Sonny made his way to the police station and headed for the interrogation room, Dante rushed in and said there was something he should know. Anna glared nearby and looked worried that Dante might blow this. Back at the hospital, Brad Cooper, Perry Shen, caught up with Cody and wooed up hugging him in front of Portia Robinson, Brooke Care. Portia flipped out over Brad acting unprofessional, so he apologized and made it clear that he wanted to prove himself. Elizabeth Baldwin, Rebecca Herbst, eventually came to Brad after receiving a subpoena regarding Heather Weber's Allie Mills case. Liz pushed Brad to look into the results discrepancy, so he investigated in the lab. When Brad realized Portia was responsible, he seemed gleeful as he reflected on what she'd been up to. As for Portia, she seemed alarmed over the subpoena as she spoke to Liz elsewhere. Over with Ava Jerome, Maura West, she ran into Lucas Jones, Van Hansis, and learned he was back in Port Charles to stay. Lucas confronted Ava about outing Blaze aka Allison Allie Rogers, Jacqueline Grace Lopez, so Ava said she foolishly thought it'd help her custody case. Ava also talked to Lucas about Julian Jerome, William DeVry, being a complicated man who loved his son. Since Ava loved Lucas too, she hinted that maybe they could be closer. Lucas had to think about it, but he assured Ava that he wouldn't push Avery Corinthos, Eva, and Grace Garola, or her mother out of his life. Back at Pentonville, Christina paid Alexis a visit to discuss Sonny's plan to hand himself over to the cops. Although Christina blamed herself for this whole mess, Alexis acted like it was the right thing for Sonny to confess his crime. Even so, Christina was distraught over the idea of Sonny landing behind bars and declared that she couldn't let that happen. General Hospital spoilers say some twists and turns are still to come in Sonny's storyline, so stay tuned for all the shocking news. The tension in Port Charles was as thick as the autumn air, with a dramatic Friday that left lives hanging in the balance. The key players in this unfolding saga faced pivotal moments where every decision could shift the tides of their futures. Dante's agonizing decision. At the Corinthos house, Dante had been feeling the weight of his father's criminal world like never before. Ever since Sonny's secrets came crashing down, this time more damaging than usual, Dante had found himself at a crossroads. Could he really go against his father, the man who raised him, taught him loyalty and family values, but also kept dragging him back into the moral gray area of the mob? The tension had been brewing between them for weeks, but today was the breaking point. As Dante sat in Sonny's office, surrounded by all the memories of his father's empire, the offer on the table from the feds haunted him. They needed his cooperation to bring Sonny down, offering him a chance to cut ties once and for all. Sonny, always 2 steps ahead, had already heard about the deal. His piercing eyes met Dante's. "If you do this, you're not just turning on me, Dante. You're breaking this family apart," Sonny warned, his voice low but potent. Dante's heart was torn in two. His loyalty to his badge battled with his loyalty to his father. Was this his moment to finally draw the line and say enough was enough? Or was blood thicker than law? "I don't want to bring you down, Dad, but I can't ignore the damage that's being done. You have to understand that," Dante said, his voice breaking. Sonny's expression softened, but he remained silent. It was as though he knew the decision had already been made, even if Dante hadn't fully realized it yet. The man who could talk his way out of any situation, even with the law, seemed to accept his fate this time, if only because it was his son holding the cards. With one last look at Sonny, Dante finally stood up, his chest tight with the magnitude of what he was about to do. "I haven't decided yet," he murmured, leaving the office before his resolve could waver. But deep down, both men knew Dante had already made his choice. Portia busted. Across town, at General Hospital, Portia Robinson's world was unraveling. For weeks, she had been dodging accusations, spinning half-truths, and trying to cover her tracks. But today, all her secrets caught up to her. It began innocuously enough. Elizabeth Weber had been digging around for answers to the hospital's recent patient scandals, and the breadcrumbs had led straight to Portia. It started with minor infractions, misfiled records, discrepancies in patient charts, but Liz had stumbled upon something far more sinister. It turned out that Portia had been involved in covering up a medical malpractice issue involving one of their wealthiest patients. Liz confronted Portia in a quiet corner of the hospital, her eyes blazing with both determination and disbelief. "Portia, I trusted you. How could you let this happen?" Portia's initial response was defensive. "You don't know the whole story, Liz. It's not as black and white as you think." But Liz wasn't backing down. "It doesn't matter what your reasons are. People could have died because of this. You've crossed a line." Portia's face crumpled as she realized the gravity of the situation. She had always prided herself on being a good doctor, a healer, but the pressure to protect both her reputation and that of the hospital had led her down a dangerous path. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked at Liz. "I was trying to protect Trina, my career, my family. I didn't want her to see me fail." Liz's expression softened slightly at the mention of Trina, But it didn't change the fact that Portia had to face the consequences. I get it. We all want to protect our kids. But this is too big to sweep under the rug. Just as the conversation seemed to reach a crescendo, Finn appeared, having overheard bits and pieces of the exchange. His usually calm demeanor faltered as he realized the seriousness of the situation. Portia, you need to come clean. The board will find out sooner or later, and if you don't step forward, it's going to be worse for everyone. Portia nodded, finally defeated. The facade she had worked so hard to maintain crumbled. She knew what she had to do, but the thought of Trina discovering the truth was unbearable. As she walked down the hospital hallway toward the administrative offices, her heart pounded with dread. The fallout from this would be catastrophic, and she had no idea if she would ever recover. Carly sticks to her statement. Meanwhile, over at the Metro Court, Carly Corinthos was dealing with her own crisis. She had been grilled by the police earlier in the week regarding her involvement in Sonny's latest scandal. The authorities were convinced that Carly knew more than she was letting on, especially when it came to Sonny's shady dealings. But Carly was no stranger to being under pressure. Having stood by Sonny's side through countless legal battles, she knew how to navigate these murky waters. Still, there was a part of her that couldn't help but feel the walls closing in this time. As she sat in the Metro Court's penthouse, sipping her third coffee of the morning, her lawyer, Diane Miller, sat across from her, reviewing the police reports. You've stuck to your story so far, Carly, and I think that's the best move. You have plausible deniability, but I need to make sure you're not hiding anything from me. Is there something else I should know? Carly met Diane's gaze, her face unreadable. I told you everything I know. Sonny keeps me in the dark on most of his business. I don't ask questions because I don't want the answers. Diane nodded, satisfied for now, but warned. The feds are coming hard this time. They're hoping to flip you. Just be prepared. As Diane left, Carly leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. She had been through hell with Sonny, and she wasn't about to let anyone tear her down. Her statement to the authorities was rock solid, and as far as she was concerned, she wasn't going to crack. But deep down, Carly knew that the truth had a way of surfacing, no matter how hard you tried to bury it. The day ended with lives forever altered, as the citizens of Port Charles faced the consequences of their choices. And with Dante, Portia, and Carly all standing at a precipice, only time would tell which way they would fall.